Welcome to Creativity, the podcast where art and engineering collide. In this podcast, we discuss our personal creative endeavors ranging from woodworking to electronics, art, and life in general. My name is Jeremy S. Cook, and this is my co-host Max Maker.
Hi everybody!
This week's special guest is known only as pocket83, and I'm really excited we got to have him on today.
Hello!
He sums up his creations as useless objects of interest, puzzles, games, woodworking, mathematics, toys, and innovations, which fits in perfectly with this show. So Pocket, what besides what we said there, what can we say about your online persona? You know, what will you tell us about yourself?
I make strange things, and I have an affinity for toys, puzzles, mathematics, and the bizarre in general.
Oh, very nice.
I have a moderately successful YouTube channel, and I've been doing it for, wow, I don't know, something close to a decade probably. I would guess maybe 8 or 9 years.
So Pocket, you know, what's on your channel? It's all kind of different, but all seems to kind of have the same sort of feel. What exactly inspires your builds?
Wow, that's a tough question. Obsessive thinking and staring. So one of my main sources of inspiration, I hate to use that word. That's so, ugh. It sounds so artsy and pretentious. But
don't worry to be mainstream. It's okay.
Yeah, oh, yeah, exactly. I don't mean to sound so counter-cultural, but one of my main sources of inspiration is to stare at my stupid ceiling fan. I hate it because it has 5 blades and 4 lights, and those numbers just don't they just don't match. There is no possible way that you can make it match. There's no symmetry to it. There's no aesthetic beauty to it. And there's not even a good engineering rationale for it. So why did they do it? I don't know. I hate it, but when I stare at it, it makes me think. So what is my source of inspiration for the ridiculous things that I make? Obsessive thinking. You just, when you think about something long enough and hard enough, it starts to lose its context. It starts to become different, and then you can see it in a different light, and I don't know, it helps you to approach problems from ways that other people might not consider. Usually people look for the shortest, easiest solution, but I like to take the most complicated and unnecessarily ridiculous route around solving a problem sometimes. And I never do anything twice. Everything that I've ever done, I just about get good at doing something, then it's time to pick up a new hobby.
That's interesting. So, I mean, with your inspiration, do you feel like modern technology, like just having a cell phone pinging you all the time or a TV, do you feel like that destroys some people's creativity?
That's a very difficult question to answer. It's a wonderful lead up into, that was a wonderful segue into me railing against technology, but it's a double-edged sword. There are wonderful things about technology. Can you repeat the question again? I want to break that question down. Say it again.
So do you feel like technology, when when we have it in front of us all the time, or cell phones, TVs, whatever, we're just being inundated with information all the time. Do you feel like that kind of hampers creativity, or do you think there's some good parts to it as well? Okay,
I think my answer is that both at the same time. It can be a terrible distraction, but at the same time, it allows us to see further. Okay, let me relate with a different story. At the university that I went to, we were allowed to use calculators. And I'm talking about like when you get into the heavy math. We were allowed to use calculators. Now, at a neighboring university, they weren't allowed to use calculators on their final exams.
Oh boy.
And I thought, wow, that's really impressive. These people must have incredible minds to be able to handle that additional stress, because when you're juggling mathematical concepts, it's hard enough to sort out all your concept math, let alone to do the arithmetic as well on top of it all. Now, I took a completely different perspective on this based on what my teacher said. He said, "Why aren't they allowed to use calculators? That's stupid." And I thought, wow, I can't believe a teacher is saying this. Usually it would be the students that complain about that. His point was that it liberates the mind. If you're free to not be distracted by just adding and dividing in simple arithmetic, if your mind is uncluttered by those things, it frees the mind to examine concepts that are more abstract, that are further out there, that are it lets you, it takes the weights off your bat and lets you swing harder, if that makes sense. It's liberating to use tools that enable us to go further into places that we wouldn't naturally be able to explore. And I think those types of advancements are what make us excel. It makes us go deeper into things. It's what gives us our ability to improve.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to be able to calculate something by hand if you need to, but it's also nice to have that resource in your brain free for other stuff.
Yeah,
exactly. I think it was Terence McKenna that said, he was talking about drugs when he said this, but if you get the message, hang up the phone. And I think a lot of basic skills are that way, where once you understand how to do them, then there's really no need to obsess over those things. It's time to move on to more complex problems. That's my opinion anyways.
Yeah, and I agree with that. It's interesting. You know, Max and I have talked about this before, but I took engineering in college, and Max did as well. And I think just how much calculus I had to learn. And I'm not sure if I could still, I'm sure I could do it if I looked it up again, but just, it's good that I know the process. And I feel like if I need to design a computer system to, say, calculate the stress or strain on something, and hopefully I could do it. And people do need to be able to do that, but do I need to do it every day? Certainly not. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think you don't need to remember any of it.
I think it's good to know that there are some things, you know, to know of them.
Well, wait. Let me clarify my point. I don't think that it's necessary to remain in practice for those things, because calculus, for example, it's just a way of thinking about understanding things that are impossible to calculate. But if you look at them closer and closer and closer, if you look at them infinitely close, eventually it approximates reality. So it's just a way of thinking that once you understand it, you don't have to remember its technical aspect. There are concepts in calculus, like the derivative or the area under a curve, where you approximate these areas by taking them in pieces, and then you cut those pieces in half again and again and again infinitely until that chunky curve becomes smooth. Now, we understand some of these things in a real in a primitive way, just intuitively, but you really have to take the blue pill in order to tumble down that rabbit hole and really get calculus deep down. And once it settles in your bones, you don't have to remember all of your trigonometric identities in order to think mathematically. You can just do it naturally. It'll be your new default position. You can never totally unknow calculus once you've known it.
Yeah, when I was at university, they often talked about transferable skills, which just means, you know, your brain creates connections that can be used in a completely different way, away from maths. Let's say you do some baking or stuff like that, and then suddenly that is easier for you because you know calculus. You don't actually think of calculus. It's just connections in your brains that help you otherwise.
Of course. I totally agree with that assessment. Now, this is a cliche, but I remember one of the old Mortal Kombat games when you turned it on, and I never forgot this. It would always say, as soon as it powered on, it said, "There is no knowledge that is not power." Yeah, it's wise words from Mortal Kombat, right? Well, I think it was a ripoff from Emerson, actually. I think it was an out-of-context quote from Emerson. But nevertheless, the thought is profound. Everything that you learn, even if you fail on the way to learning it, lends itself to other applications. There's a universality of every piece of knowledge that applies in other domains. And I totally believe that. If you become a good baker, well, take unrelated things like chemistry and baking. but in a way, they're fundamentally the same.
Exactly.
If you've ever taken ChemLab, it's like following a recipe. And if you could do one, you can do the other. Now, somebody might think that there's a disparity between those two skills, but to me, I see no incongruence. They're like virtually the same thing. You're in a different context when you're doing those things, but it's a very similar skill set required in order to perform those actions.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I appreciate the Mortal Kombat reference. I haven't played that in several years, but
which was the best one in your opinion?
What's that?
Which was the best one in your opinion?
I mean, I think number one was the best personally, because it was I just really liked it. And the time I had those kind of like graphics that looked kind of like they should be real photos, but they're real pixelated. And yeah, I don't know if you ever saw, I'm sure you've seen Enter the Dragon, some of those old Kung Fu movies.
Yes.
I never saw those until like way later. And you see it, it's like, wow, this is all of Mortal Kombat takes so much from all of these movies. I just thought that was just amazing looking back at it. I don't know.
Liu Kang was certainly Bruce Lee, right?
Oh, certainly. And then Johnny Cage was Jean-Claude Van Damme, right? Is that? Would you agree with that? Because
wow, that's okay. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, because he was a Hollywood guy with I got the cool glasses on. I'm a Hollywood guy. And then who else? Kano. There was a movie with Bruce Lee called, I think it was Game of Death, and there was a guy that had that scar or whatever. I don't know what that was. Anyway, I just
victory.
Yeah. And then you ever play Tekken?
I didn't get into it so much.
Okay, well, there's a character on there named Forrest Law of all things, and he's the resemblance between him and Bruce Lee is uncanny. So it's anyway. I've enjoyed that. I enjoyed playing it at the time, but then 10, 15, 20 years later, you see these movies and you're like, wow, they took a lot of, I don't want to say ripped off, but they took a lot from those movies. It just makes it kind of cool in my opinion.
Now, to answer my own question, I think Mortal Kombat Trilogy was the best one. It was a wonderful fighting game.
I don't think I ever played that one.
PlayStation 1. You have to use the greatest hits one. You have to play the greatest hits one because there was a bad response time on the Black Label version. This is something that you might not know. Most people probably don't know this about my online persona, but I'm an obsessive video game collector. I have something in the order of like 3,000 video games, and
wow,
yeah, and that's not counting emulators. I have quite a love of video games. Starting,
does your spouse share that passion?
Would any spouse share that passion? She tolerates it nicely. I can incorporate her into certain games. She likes to play them passively, but not like I do. But I'm not an obsessive video game player.
That sounds absolutely good enough.
Yeah, we have to learn to tolerate our weirdness when you live with each other's weirdness when you live with somebody. But Max, absolutely. Do you play video games?
Yes, I used to play a lot when I was younger. Now I don't have the time that much anymore, but I only play on PC. I never had a console, so...
You never had any console?
No. I started off playing Commander Ken. That was really good. Commander Keen is his name. It's a little bit like Mario, but I think it's the cheap knockoff version. And it's a little bit...
Yeah, I remember that. It was a shareware, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. That was really good. And then... Stronghold Crusader, Doom, so much stuff. Counter-Strike, no, how's it called? Command and Conquer, that was great. The Settlers.
Oh, I love that one. Red
Alert 2, that was my game.
Red Alert 2 was my game. That was the only one that I felt like I was really pretty good at. Other than that, first-person shooters, I always liked them, but I was just terrible at it. And then I guess just the strategy behind it really, really appealed to me.
Red Alert I thought Red Alert was a Virtual Boy title. Do you remember that? It was a failed project by Nintendo where it was kind of like it was a definitely early precursor to virtual reality, but it was a great disappointment it was a colossal failure on the part of Nintendo, actually, because the reason it was a failure was because it was in all red.
Yeah.
And people complained about eye strain and everything else. If you look at the hardware, it was kind of like a beta, and it seemed like it was premature to be released. But I loved it. I thought the system was wonderful. I own 10 of them.
Really?
Which is really something, because they sell for several $100s. Luckily, I bought a lot of them many, many years ago.
I remember back in the day when that system was, at some point they decided, well, this system's not going to be successful. And I remember you were able to, remember one of my friends bought a set and a bunch of games for like really, really cheap. Is that, maybe that's when you bought yours? I don't
Actually,
know.
my first one, how I even became aware of it was there was an old video game developer in the area had gone bankrupt. They made quite a few video games, PC games, and they went bankrupt. And a company that I was kind of working for on and off at the time, the guy in charge who went to assess it, he was a buddy of mine, and he knew that I like to play games. And he called me. He said, "You have to come here now. We're going to throw everything into the dumpster, and this place is loaded to the hilt with video game related stuff." And he let me go in and take first pick of everything I wanted.
Wow, that's amazing.
I never got such an opportunity for anything.
No, not too many people would. It was like something out of a dream. There were rooms. It was an entire building just filled with game related things. It was like they went home from the office and never came back. But I know it had to do with bankruptcy. There were things in there. Like, the thing that struck me was the clay models for the environment. They had built an entire clay model world that had a volcano or something in the center, made from plasticine. It took up an entire dining room table. It must have taken them months to model this, and it all ended up going into the dumpster.
So they literally just let you come in and say, "I want this and this and this," and see you later? That does sound like a dream, a really good dream.
I worked on some games when I was younger. I've actually, this is kind of strange. It's a strange thing to admit, but my dream in life was to model three-dimensional objects for video games. So when you're playing Counter-Strike and you walk into this room and you're about to just start shooting everything, over in the corner, there's a lamp and an end table with some books. I wanted to be the guy that drew those.
Yeah, no, that's cool. It's do you remember? I remember when I played video games. It just got to the point where you could destroy some of the objects in the environment. I thought that was a pretty neat step. Maybe you're familiar with that too. I don't know. Maybe you thought that was cool too, when you could blow up the TV or whatever else. Or,
yeah, you always check your boundaries. What is not blow upable, upblowable, explodable. You could shoot the TV and the TV explodes. So then you try the telephone and that doesn't work, and then you're like, so that's why they stopped with the effort.
Okay, I'm not sure what generation you guys were from, but do you remember the game GoldenEye?
That was the best game for this Nintendo 64.
So if you recall this was before there was any real sort of interactivity with objects in games. Like later on, I remember, what was the Valve game? The other Valve game, Half-Life 2. It was amazing. You could pick things up and drop. It was amazing that you could do that. But early on with games like GoldenEye, everything just blew up. So there would be like a book on the table, and when you shoot it, it would explode. And it was unrealistic, but at the same time, it was like, finally, there's actual interaction with the environment. You can move things and affect them in some way. For the longest time, you couldn't do that.
I remember too, it was just playing, you play with 4 players, and it's, you always wanted to play as Odd Job, right? Because he was too small to shoot.
No Odd Job, that's cheating.
So cheap.
And now there's a game where you actually become the objects. There's a prop hunt where you transform yourself into an object, and you can move around as that object, and the other person has to find you and shoot you. So you can become the telephone and just hide on the table.
Well, you can't make that stuff up.
No, somebody did.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, somebody did.
So to bring it back to YouTube and games, it reminded me of PewDiePie. I mean, he finds the weirdest games. Do you guys ever watch him?
I used to, but not now anymore, since he's a bit controversial and a bit of an idiot, I think.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I don't know if idiot is the appropriate word, but you know, if somebody has to be a YouTube celebrity, he does a pretty good job at handling it, because that sort of fame is corrosive. And
he handles as well, yes.
Yeah, I mean, there could be personalities that would be far more self-indulgent and arrogant, and I think he's handled it like a saint, in my opinion. And he's genuinely funny, but
he's a nice guy. But then, you know, for those that don't know him, he recently used the N-word in a stream to insult somebody else, which is just, you know, he's got 50 million subscribers. He's a super millionaire, and then he has to use the N-word because somebody else shoots him in a game. That's just stupid.
Yeah. That's rough.
I thought the Jew thing was funny though.
Well, that's kind of a double standard. Well, whatever. Well, let's not touch on that subject.
That was humor. That was humor. The other thing was just a stupid insult.
But to bring it back to YouTube.
Yeah, who was the guy?
No, go on, Jeremy. Go on. I'm sorry.
I was just going. Who was the guy? Kramer, the Michael Richards.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
You remember that he was just bombing in some sort of comedy performance, and he started using that word over and over, and I think people never really forgot about that.
No, that's a taboo. That's a bad one. That word.
Yeah, that's
that
a
word.
bad one.
It sticks out in conversation. There are words that jump out. They have pointy edges, and it pierces the silence. You have to watch that one. But anyways, to bring it back to YouTube, I'm interested. What are your favorite channels?
Oh, pocket83, obviously, and pocket83 too.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I'm
pocket83. Sure. I check every morning for new videos.
Oh, I'm sure you watch all of them. Yeah, there's some boring and dry content on there.
I like to watch Vsauce. I don't know if you know them, but for those that don't know him, it's the guy that builds a ship in his backyard or front yard, a steel ship, a giant steel ship. It's like 20 meters long, which is like 60 feet, I think. And he's building it from scratch. He started with raw steel. He actually started before that by building a crane to handle the steel. And he makes a lot of stuff from scratch, and it's always inspiring to see what you can actually do and to think out of the box. A lot of things he doesn't have to buy because he just makes them himself.
That's amazing. So does he live in a neighborhood? I don't know if you have HOAs over there in Germany, but I don't think my neighbors would be.
Oh, he's from Tucson, Arizona? No, Dallas. It's northwest of Florida, not far, like 2 states ahead.
So he's in a rural area, I assume.
Yeah,
is that correct?
Yes, he lives next to steel yards and to scrap yards, so the neighbors don't mind.
Oh,
yeah,
sounds awesome.
He bought a shitty house. He bought a house and a property for I think 40 grand, and it was a complete mess. You know, it was like one of those houses in New Orleans after the hurricane. And he just did it up again. He said, "Well, this is cheap, you know. This allows me to spend money on my boat." And he also drives a really old Toyota that cost $1,200, he said. And he says, well, it's a shitty car, but it works and it saves me money to do other stuff.
Did you guys play in the junkyard as kids?
No, I played in hay balls.
I never at the junkyard. My grandfather owned a shop, a metalworking shop. So I was always playing those pipes and stuff, which is pretty dangerous, looking back on it. I was, climbing around in pipes. And I remember my grandfather, I think he told my dad one time, he's like, this is not a playground. It's not like for kids to run around in. And that was probably pretty good advice looking back on it now, having a kid myself. So
probably, I do remember playing in the junkyard as a kid. One of my friends lived near one, and it's amazing. You have to watch for bees, though, because you pull up a piece of sheet metal or something or an old tire, and you can get swarmed by hornets, and that can be a bad experience. But it's a great way. Now, if I had kids, I would yell at them, get out of the junkyard, naturally, right?
Yeah.
But looking back on it as a child, what more creative environment could you have? I remember my friend, I remember him using an old jigsaw to cut out 1/8-inch sheet metal because he wanted to make a go-kart frame. And it was just pure tenacity and creative spirit that got him through that. Did the go-kart ever run? Not really, but it's the starting point of an inventive spirit. I mean, you have to play with the toys you're not supposed to play with in order to get to that next place.
I remember waking up in the morning, before my parents were up, which I'm sure they love this, and just getting all my dad's scrap wood and just nailing it together in just the worst construction project you could ever imagine.
Oh yeah, it's just a mess. And then his scrap wood is ruined because it has nails and screws in it. But would you like to hear about my dad's table saw?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
By any standard, his table saw is a death trap. I don't have any memories of him using it actually, but now we use zero clearance plates. You guys are familiar with that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's to the listener who doesn't know. The idea is that the blade comes out of the table saw and there's a cavity around it. And older table saws had big, what's called a throat, a big opening between the blade so that you could put in a dado stack or some other goofy device or turn the blade to an angle. So this big cavity is large enough for you to drop a tape measure through on my dad's old saw. I mean, you can't use a table saw safely on it because it'll suck your wood down into the blade. But it was all rusty and the blade was seized on with some old rusty blade that was junk and dull. And it was a 220 saw that was just way too powerful. And here I am, about probably 13 years old, no instruction whatsoever, no idea how to cut
Oh God, no.
anything with the table saw. And there's stuff all over. You can't even turn in there because there's just stuff all over the floor and all over the walls. And you have to kind of free up your elbows if you don't want to get hurt. You have to have room. Because if something bumps your piece, it could bind the piece of wood against the blade. It was just, the whole thing was a death trap. Well, I remember cutting cherry, and the blade was just going and bogging down and smoking, and I didn't know what was wrong, but it smoked every time I cut, and who knows how badly it was misaligned or what, but somehow I made it through that.
That's good.
Without ever cutting off a digit. And in retrospect, using a table saw is so easy once you know the proper form.
Yeah.
Once you know how to do it and you understand the basic physics, it's easy. There's nothing to be afraid of. And you can mitigate risk with a few simple steps. Number one, have a zero clearance blade or zero clearance insert.
Yeah.
Number one thing you can do to save your fingers. It just reduces accidents by 90%.
Yeah. And keep your hands off the blade. That's simple.
Don't put your hands
Don't go near the blade. Yeah. I always use push sticks, but lots of people, they don't know how to use it. They just think they know how to use. They think they know how to use it. They use it, and then something bad could happen. So, but just watching a 10-minute video on YouTube will tell you all the dangers there are, and make it safe to use.
Yes, there are fine techniques though that a lot of people don't mention. Sometimes it's nice to hear. There was a tip that I always wanted to include in a video, and I saw it on an Izzy Swan video. Have you ever seen him?
Yeah. Of course. I know them all. Jeremy has kids. He doesn't have enough time.
It's funny. I make YouTube videos, but I don't watch that many just because, as Max said, I don't have that much time, to be honest.
To be honest, I don't really watch them anymore. I think when I first started doing this, the first couple of years, I would examine their content, the other people in my genre, the woodworking genre. I would examine it and scrutinize it and stay up to date with what they were releasing. But now I don't watch any of it.
Yeah.
I admit I don't watch any of it. A lot of it has become redundant.
Yeah.
Also, well, I don't know. I don't want to badmouth any of them because there are some brilliant minds and they do some incredibly innovative things. But at this point, I just don't need to see any more of it. I just dismiss all of it and just go about what I'm doing anyways. Every once in a while, one will pop up recommended as something I had meant to get to because I have a long list of videos that I want to release. And when one of them releases one that infringes upon the thing that I wanted to release, it always bothers me a little bit. But then I just say, it's not like any of us invented any of this stuff. We're just recycling old ideas for new presentation media.
Where I really noticed that people are circulating their ideas is when I saw this channel, I think it's Total Boat, or that's the company that sponsors it. It's a guy that builds a boat. His name is Louis. Oh, what's the channel name? I'll look it up. But he builds a boat from scratch, basically, and he shows you every single step and every single trick. And he uses the tools in a completely different way than everybody else does. He, for example, uses an electric planer. Nobody ever used an electric planer in the woodworking videos that I've seen. And that really opened my eyes. And I noticed this guy, he's original. All the other YouTubers, the woodworking YouTubers, they watch each other videos and they use the same techniques, the same tools, they do the same projects, and somebody else has to come along to show them that there's something else out there. So you actually learn something new after you watch all the other videos.
I have to stand up for them, though. A lot of them they do incredibly original work, and they're being careful not to step too closely to things that have. Boy, the accusations are bad. I mean, I remember there was this, when we did the Jurassic Park cane, there was this, another channel did another Jurassic Park cane thing, and the comments at their video, it was just endless comments about how Peter Brown already did this. And it was just in the hundreds. You can still go to see it, and you have to feel for it. It's like you don't want to just not do anything for fear of being unoriginal, because here's newsflash, you're not original. Nothing that you do is new. There are very few cases where something is new, at least, even if it is new, there are still elements of it that are old. They come from old places.
Yeah, I mean, the guy in Jurassic Park made it. The prop maker made it, obviously, so it's been done before. It's not like, oh, I came up with a.
And even when that first prop maker made it, Michael Crichton came up with the idea.
I mean, sure, they make original projects. A lot of them do, but I still see that sometimes there are these rounds of people building this, like it's a loop. Now he builds a miter saw stand. He builds a miter saw stand. He builds a miter saw stand. I've seen enough of them. Same with crosscut sleds. Everybody does crosscut sleds.
Yeah, but we need just one more, Max. So you should probably come out with that.
But some stick out that don't do them.
I'll tell you this, Max. My next video is something that has definitely not been done before. It is something that when you see it, you're going to say, "My goodness, that has not been done before." I'll say that it uses epoxy, but beyond that. I'm closing in on it now. I'm hoping to finish it this week, but it's going to be like something like 18 minutes long, and I try not to make them that long.
Has it something to do with a parabola?
No, there won't be any mathematics in this one. Nothing even, like I was thinking about this. If the video is short, then I might buttress it a little bit with some simple math, concept-based math. Like in this one, I probably could have talked about crystallization maybe, but you have to watch. Here's the thing with math. If you say anything and you do it concept-based, like an explanatory, like an exploration of the concept, the math concept, then you'll get accusations that you're not portraying it carefully enough or clearly enough or thoroughly enough. And then you're also going to get nitpicky people. Oh boy, do math people like precision. They like to play the semantics thing. They'll tell you about how many ways in which you're wrong. But also, you'll also get people that there are people that take the side that you're going too far and I don't want to hear about this. And then you get people that say you're not going far enough. So there's this strange balance that you have to find that you'll never please everybody, but you have to kind of please yourself. What is your audience? And I picture this person, my target is, he's a boy. Sorry to be sexist, but he's male. He's interested in a lot of the same things that I am. He likes math, but he's not entirely formally educated on math. I don't know. I have this ideal picture of him, and I try to talk to him and help him through it. And he's considerably younger than me, so I don't mean to be condescending or talk down to him, but I want to make sure that he gets it before I go forward.
Yeah, that's why you start off all your videos. Okay, Junior, now you need to learn from me because I've been doing it for a long time. That's how you start all your videos, right?
Yeah, being condescending is, you can be condescending inadvertently, like accidentally. It's very easy, and I feel like I'm doing it a lot. And I don't mean to be condescending. I really struggle not to be that person. But we walk a fine line between...
It's kind of funny, though, because it's like, I feel like, not you necessarily, but if somebody is condescending, if that's like their persona, it can be kind of funny. It's weird. It's like, and I'm not talking about you necessarily at all, but it seems like people kind of like people that have a little bit of an edge to them, but you got to like not cross that other edge if that makes any sense. I mean, if you're just explaining something like, well, this is how you do this, this is how you do this, that's interesting. But then if you kind of, I don't know, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, but I'm not good at assessing where that edge is, because
it's difficult. There's such a big audience. There's such a big mix of people. Yes. You don't know who the videos, what they're watching.
No, and a lot of the personalities that do really well, they seem to me to be arrogant, abrasive, condescending, and way too self-absorbed. And people like that, though. And I think what it is that they like to be, well, it's evolutionary. To be honest, it's evolutionary. And this will be controversial to say, but most people are betas, and they need to be put in line. They like to fall in line. It feels comfortable to be led. You feel like you're the
alpha dog, I guess.
No, I didn't say. I've adopted the alpha persona at times. To sink a nail in one hit, I'm a total alpha, and in the comments, I will be. In real life, no, I don't think so. Even by my posturing, I'm not that person. I don't like to be. I'm not very confident.
But isn't that the nature of YouTube? You know, that it's a one-way communication. You are talking to the audience. The audience doesn't have a say unless in the comics.
I suppose. Well, look, there are a lot of different ways that we can go about doing this too. You can adopt the alpha approach, but there's going to be pushback from that. You can adopt the beta approach, and there's going to be pushback from that. They're going to push you while you're down if you take that one. Now, here's one approach that I absolutely will not take. I will not take the apologetic route. A lot of presenters, you'll see them say, I'm using 2-inch screws because that's what I had on hand, or because and there's
I've probably done that.
A lot of people do that. It's an easy rut to fall into because it's crowd pleasing.
You're explaining why you did things. You try to find an excuse for something that you haven't even been accused of.
Exactly.
Yet.
But why? Where does this come from? Where does this insecurity come from? It comes from the fact that we've been hit down for every move. Every time we've stuck our head out, we get bopped back down. And so eventually you become beaten from this. You can, at least. But I'm pretty argumentative and I'm pretty resilient at times. So I won't do that. I won't take that approach. I'm doing it this way because this is the way that I want to do it, or because, I might, where it's reasonable to do so, I'll provide you with my rationale where it's relevant. But for the most part, I can't be asked to apologize for every little decision that I make, because there are an infinite number of ways to do everything. So it's just a waste of time for me to sit there and tell you that I took this approach because this is what my store carried. You don't need to know that information. It's
right.
It's irrelevant.
Right. Yeah. Nobody cares if you have Home Depot or Lowe's or Scotty's next to your house. Not that that's a store anymore. But
no.
I've got 2 tricks that help me avoid this. The first one is when I set out to do YouTube, I said, screw what people are thinking about this. I'm just going to do it because I like to do this stuff anyway. So I can record it and people can have fun watching that stuff. So I don't really care about bad comments. I told myself, if there are bad comments, let them be. I won't be annoyed by them. And the second thing is, I don't explain them what I do. I try not to. I try to show them what I do from the footage, and I try to tell them an interesting story with the voiceover. So they have 2 things that they watch at the same time. Because otherwise you fall into this hole where you start to explain every single thing that the people already see on screen.
Right. Yeah. There's a fine line between, like you said, explaining everything and just not explaining anything. And I think that's kind of like what Pocket was talking about. You got to kind of find that balance, and that's I guess it's just a matter of putting the videos out and seeing what people like. Would you guys agree with that?
I at the risk of sounding redundant, the way that I deal with this is that I think of that imaginary person. He's that kid that he's not necessarily a kid, but I'm helping him through it. Now, along the way, there's going to be these people that have been doing it for 40 years, which this makes me laugh. I have a video about, it's something like how to install crown mold or something like that. And almost weekly, I get somebody who comments that I'm doing it wrong. And it's like, if you're a professional at installing this, why are you watching a how-to video? And then you're watching a how-to video explicitly for the purpose to offer your unsolicited opinion. And so I always argue this point because I don't know why it's futile, but I do it anyways. Empirically, you can't make the claim that it's wrong because you could put crown mold sideways and use it as door casing. And there's no objective measure of the correct way to use a trim molding.
It's just decorative.
Yes. And now you can take the argument that no. Crown molding it's derivative of Roman architecture, which was assumed from original Greek architecture, which had a specific molding direction, blah, 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 blah. But so what? What we have at Home Depot that's made out of white crappy foam is not the same thing that the Greeks were using. It's like a weak copy of that at best. It's like a shadow of what that was. And
right.
Besides,
well, Pocket, that's why at your house you use the stone crown molding, correct? Is that accurate?
Yeah, exactly.
Marble.
I use only marble because I'm trying to have an accurate depiction of what existed at the time.
Because you're the alpha house builder, I guess, right?
Yeah, I'm a purist.
And of course, his font is Times New Roman.
Yeah, and I also wear
nothing underneath.
I wear sandals nearly every day, so that you know.
And in case you're wondering if you want to picture what I look like, I look like a hipster. I'm a stereotypical hipster.
Well, I've seen a picture of you. You're doing some pull-ups on the pull-up rings. I think that's, you do an impressive number of pull-ups. To be honest, I've been working on doing one at the gym for the last year or two, and that's not going too well.
At least you're making progress. You're going to the gym.
Yeah,
I don't use the gym.
Yeah, and last time he biked.
I don't use the gym.
Right. Max shamed me into biking to the gym because, as he, quite accurately implied, that's a pretty big waste of time when you're just driving the car to the gym, you drive back, you walk on the treadmill for 20 minutes and you spend 20 minutes in the car, and that's playing down my workouts a little bit. I'd say, lift weights or whatever, but it's kind of a waste. So.
Well, I don't go to the gym, but I made a home gym. Unsurprisingly, I mean, if you're familiar with my channel, I'm a rather resourceful person, right? So I invented.
We noticed.
So I invented a lot
of
different ways to target the different. Well, one thing that I can advise anybody on, if you want to get in better shape, the rings. I've been training on the rings. Actually, I made a video about this just yesterday. I finished it, but I didn't release it. And I don't know if I'm going to.
Why not?
Because
you've got to now.
Because it's consistent.
You announced it practically.
Oh no, I don't. I make empty promises all the time. I've made lots and lots of videos that I've never released for various reasons. I don't know, insecurities, or some of them have spoilers, or like I said, they contain too many empty promises. But the topic was about that, exercising and such. And I got into the rings. I trained for 3 months straight, which is an accomplishment. And at first you can't do anything on the rings. Like, you won't even be able to hold yourself up. You could barely hang on them before you hurt. And it's impressive that the first time I tried them, I was able to do something in the order of 12 or 13 repetitions on pull-ups, because it's very much harder than a static bar. But after 3 months of training, I was making a lot of progress. And then, my tendon in my right elbow went bad.
Crap.
So I had to stop. I'm stopping for now. But I did get a lot of requests that people are interested in that sort of exercise stuff, just because, I made some interesting pictures and had some good tips for things that you can use so that you don't have to go to the gym, because the idea of going to a gym and working out in public is just, that's like the stuff nightmares are made of for me. I couldn't imagine.
Really? That's interesting. I mean, I don't mind it too much. I mean, I don't work at home, so going to the gym is the only time I get to see other people, it seems like.
Yeah.
It's like a motivation.
No, I don't see other people. I don't like them. I avoid
fair,
people at all. I am kind of reclusive anymore, to be honest. I used to be quite the social bug, but not so much anymore. I think that's the result of age, though. As we age, I think our social lives take less and less importance. We become lost in our own weird little worlds to some extent. And my weird little world is filled with...
And plus, I feel like...
Go on. I apologize. Okay. I'm not a good podcaster.
Yeah, it was tough, because if we were sitting here next to each other, you'd have some was it visual cues, I guess? Say, okay, hey, here I am, and I don't know, it's very subtle. It's not like you can see me opening my mouth or something. I don't know. I guess it's just something you gotta get used to.
We would have to do it many times before we don't trip over each other. We're at 50 minutes or something, and that's just not sufficient. This is a skill that you would learn after. If you watch Joe or listen or watch to Joe Rogan, I mean, he's very skilled.
No, very little. I used to. What's that?
The comedian? Oh, it's Seth Rogen. No, I don't know.
Yeah, he's got a podcast. He's I guess he likes he's into MMA, right? And another how can I put this? A certain kind of plant, I guess. Is that kind of his theme?
Well, I think
Are we talking about Seth Rogen or Joe Rogan?
No, Joe Rogan. Seth Rogen's the guy that's in those cheesy movies. He was in, what was that one that was so funny?
Sausage Fest.
No.
That was funny. It was super funny.
Super bad? Super bad.
No. Wasn't it?
Knocked Up?
Forgetting Sarah Marshall. No, that wasn't him, was it? No, I'm getting my wires crossed. Never mind.
Oh, we're talking about Seth Rogen? I thought you were talking about Joe Rogan.
I am.
Sorry.
Okay, we're all confused. Back to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has probably the most successful podcast ever. And part of the reason that he's so successful, aside from the fact that he's just tapping into the angry young white male demographic, which is like really, really a strong demographic.
Are you angry?
Sometimes, not at the moment. Why, do I sound angry? What are you trying to say?
Oh, sorry.
No, I think part of the reason to Joe Rogan's success is that he has a lot of interests. He has a diverse range. So he has a lot of public intellectuals on, but he also has like MMA fighters, and he'll have people that are just relevant or interesting, the movers and shakers. And he gets some proper weirdos and rock stars. So it's a good podcast.
That sounds a little bit like Howard Stern.
It's not as offensive. Howard Stern's kind of in the shock business. Well, he was when he was relevant. But
well, I think he's still relevant. People listen to him. He's just not in the news that much anymore. I'm hesitant to say, but I always liked Stern. He's so arrogant. He's just awash in his own self-worship. But he was a brilliant presenter. And we used to listen to him way long time ago. When I was a construction worker, I would listen to him. I remember this one time that he was in an argument with some guy from Jamaica, and he had a bit of an accent. You could hear he's from the Caribbean, and he said, "You're an idiot. You're as dumb as a coconut." That was such a mean insult, just because he's from there. But it was funny, and it always sticks.
There were moments. He's unquestionably brilliant. Like him or hate him, say what you want about him or his politics or his arrogance. He's brilliant, and he's a wonderful presenter. Here's the thing that we don't get most of the time. We see people like Pewdiepie or any other somebody who we want to believe, just because we don't agree with what they do entirely, that they somehow haphazardly stumbled into their celebrity and they didn't earn it. Nonsense. Usually people have something original about them that lends to some reason to view them or listen to them, because they have something to add, something different, something special or unique. And I really do think that even the most awful, mediocre presentations there's some reason for them.
Have you heard of this guy named Phil Hendry by any chance?
No, I'm not sure.
He had a radio show, and he would, just thinking about brilliant presenters, he would do 3 or 4 different voices at the same time, and he would have a guest, a quote-unquote guest on, that would just have some really offensive idea, right? And he'd be interviewing him, and then callers would call in that didn't really get what the show was about and just berate the guy about how terrible his guest was and how he should get off the air and stuff. It was, I really, really enjoyed that. So,
oh, he did. Well,
yeah, I thought it was good.
Okay, so, well, I mean, anything different is sometimes things that are too different, though, the charm will wear off as fast as it. Well, Stern wasn't the case. I mean, he lasted a long time, and you would think that this is just shock trash and that it will wear off, but there was something about his presentation that really had some longevity. But back to Joe Rogan, my point with him, actually, I don't remember my point with him, other than I do frequently listen to his podcasts, especially when he gets the smart ones on. I like those celebrity intellectuals like, Robert Sapolsky and Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson, those types, the science / interesting stuff, especially where it bumps into philosophy. I really like that. It's one of my ongoing passions. No, speaking of Jordan Peterson, when in preparation for this morning, I looked around. One of his memes is to clean your room. They turned it into a meme. He's fond of saying, clean your room. And it's a metaphor for, get your house in order and promote clarity of thought. And I don't know. I don't know. You have to listen to him, but it's a metaphor, I believe. But I was laughing to myself while I was doing it this morning. I'm cleaning my room. Like, if I'm going to give a clear presentation and make some sense with these guys, then I should probably clean my room. And in doing so, I spilled my coffee all over my computer, everything.
So wait, you literally cleaned your room? Because I think that's awesome. Or figuratively, I can't tell.
Yeah, but I attempted to, but then I spilled my coffee, and so I ended up in more of a disaster than.
I'm sorry. I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but as an engineer, I feel like I have a hard time picking up on sarcasm sometimes. Do you find that's the same with you, Max? Or maybe being very literal is a German thing. Maybe that's some of my ancestry coming back on myself.
No, I mean, Pocket just there literally said he thinks it's a metaphor, but still he actually cleaned his room. So he gave us a false impression.
Yeah, I apologize for that. I do not have an impeded sense of sarcasm. I think I'm very good with sarcasm. How good am I at detecting it in other people? I think pretty good. I think I do pretty well with it. I don't think, actually, I pride myself on considering myself to be quite advanced with sarcasm. In fact, on my channel, I've already released 2 series that were satirical.
Oh, I noticed them.
And you want to talk?
And your audience didn't like them that much, did they?
Not at all. Not even a little bit. Dude, I've reaped the whirlwind of hatred for that. I mean, it stunted the development of my channel for 3 years.
And I thought, why does he keep doing it? Just stop.
I'll tell you why.
Well, I guess your audience can't pick up on it. Well, is that what you learned?
Some of them do. Some of them loved it. They were totally on my side, but most of them hated it. And the messages, I got death threats over it. The hatred, just pure.
Death threats?
What?
Yeah.
Well, why don't these people have better stuff to do with their time than give death threats to a random guy on the internet? I mean, what are these people doing? I mean, what do you do for a living when all you have to do, you just think they had something better to do with their time than make death threats to a guy who gives you his content for free on the internet. You know what I mean?
I have to say it was pretty annoying though. Like the first video was clearly satire.
What do you mean it was annoying? It was brilliant.
No, well, the first video I could clearly see, okay, he is raising awareness for a problem on YouTube, which was probably clickbait or something like that, or
wait. Back up. To which series are you referring?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, because I did it twice. The one time I told them that this is going to be a video game channel now. And I reviewed old games, and it was so dry and boring and bad and awkward. It was like, I think Andy Kaufman might have laughed if he saw it.
No, I don't think I meant that one. I meant the one where it was basically like bullshit videos.
Yeah,
we're not saying bullshit on here.
The clickbait
They were nonsense videos. Yeah, clickbait videos.
Yeah, well, the mark of good satire is that it is social commentary. I mean, I was trying to make a point.
But the thing is, I got the point from the first video, but then there were like 10 more. to the point where the people said like, okay, we got it, you can stop now.
Yeah,
and
but
I thought, okay, after all these comments, surely he would stop now. And then there was another one.
But the thing is, I didn't even release all of them because I had to stop because the vitriol was awful. I mean, there was one comment from one person that hurt. And I mean, it like genuinely hurt. And
what did he say?
See, what people don't realize is that those videos still exist. They're just no longer public. Oh. So I leave them there as a repository of hatred that I once in a while go back and revisit and read the comments to remind myself that they don't really like me.
Are you going to share what it was that hurt?
No, because I don't want to, send everybody
reopen that wound.
I understand.
But
is that where the source of your video where you were just making fun of all the trolls the whole time? Because that's as much as I like your technical videos, I feel like that was one of my favorite videos.
Go troll yourself.
Was that what it's called? Go troll yourself?
No. Jeremy's talking about one where I just read offensive comments, and then I made commentary at the end about what I thought about what this is doing and why we should have respect or something. I can't remember, but my position has changed a lot, and I'm almost hesitant to express my opinion because I feel like it will become misunderstood, or I can't get it all out there without some of it being taken out of context, because I think at this point it's pretty nuanced. I've learned so much about, I don't know, what makes people angry and to what extent they're allowed to voice their dissenting opinion. But pure hatred and pure just anger, I see no usefulness to it. But I have to say this, and I preface every time I move into this discussion, I have to preface by saying that I'm an extreme adherent or advocate for free speech. I don't want to suppress free speech. I hate doing that. Like on my second channel, I don't remove comments on my second channel because most of the people there it's just not the general population.
Yeah.
The general population, I have to suppress comments because a lot of them are made by kids, and a lot of it is just offensive swearing that's only made to promote hostility, and you have to squash that bug or it'll get bigger.
I mean, I guess the thing is, I think, people see, okay, Pocket or Max on the internet, or, and to a lesser extent, sometimes Jeremy, they say, well, this guy's on the internet, he's a celebrity. I mean, maybe not a celebrity, but I think people don't see them as an actual person, so they can say, oh, well, let's just insult this person. What a dumb project this is, without realizing, well, there's actually a person on the other end of the line here. And, I see most comments I think all of us get are extremely positive, but you wouldn't say, oh, that's a stupid build or whatever to me if in public. That's if you knew I was actually a person, if that makes any sense, I guess.
Unquestionably, the psychology behind your claim is entirely accurate. The first thing that people do in order to become truly nasty is that you dehumanize the target of your hostility. That's how the Holocaust was spread. I mean, how do you get people to commit mass genocide? the people that you're killing off aren't really humans. That's the way that you have to approach. In the case of public people that are in the public light, no, if you're on social media, then you forfeit your humanity. They don't see you as a person. You're an object. They refer to you in the third person, and they never really fully apprehend that you read those things and you're affected by them. Now, I also want to take issue with something that you said. You said, and I hear a lot of people say this, that the vast majority of comments are positive. That has
especially in our genre.
That has not been my experience. I think that the vast
Was it not?
Numerically, they're split. And if you don't count the ones that are completely neutral as good, if you're just measuring the net connotations of comments, like the flavor, the feel that they have, then it's split. There's a bell curve, and the center of the bell curve is right around average. You get just as many nasty ones as you get positive ones. Some of them might get showered in adoration, and I've received letters from people, countless letters, and I get gifts. People send me cool stuff and weird stuff.
Yeah,
but
really?
But
well, never happened to me.
There's a hatred that offsets that.
It's interesting. Yeah,
I never experienced that.
That touches on an interesting.
Well,
so far.
Well, wait.
Okay.
How many views does your channel have?
In total, I'm not even sure how many views. I've got 8,500 subscribers. So.
Well, that doesn't necessarily correlate with views, though. Did you get like a million views?
No, not yet.
Okay, I think
that's interesting.
I think I started to really. Go on.
I was just gonna say my channel, I guess, has a bit more views than yours, in Max, but not nearly as many subscribers. It's interesting to see how different channels rank up. But that wasn't really your point, though, Pocket. So please continue.
Well,
so you say they come with more views, the comments get worse. I've got 415,000.
I'd say that I really started to feel the comment burn at somewhere around 2 million, maybe 3 million views. That's where it started to hit me as, wow, oh man, it changed my perspective of humanity. For a while, I seriously really, really took a cynical approach. Like, I thought, I can't believe that it's this bad and people don't understand how bad it is. And in a way, I can't even explain it to other people in such a way. They'll say, oh yeah, I know, Facebook's rough or whatever. And like, no, you really don't understand. When you get a couple million views, the comments associated with those can just be downright horrible. I mean, like, your thumbs are deformed looking, you're retarded, you should kill yourself.
Really?
That's
you
like
get comments like that.
Well, that's
I've never had something like that.
That's just the norm. That's like a daily thing.
Well, look, Max, or Pocket, I really like your videos. So just from me, and I think Max will say, we'll give you thumbs up. So that's, that,
two undeformed thumbs up.
We always
two undeformed thumbs up. That's right.
Well, yeah, but you guys you're like me though. You're fellow engineering people, so like naturally you like that stuff. But the general public is not. They're not so gracious. Like they see you as an object first, and then like if you deserve their subscription, then maybe they'll treat you as something more. But they also I think that you don't read the comments because it's always like, he sounds like Batman.
He sounds like Batman.
Yeah, like it's in the third.
Are you counting that as an insult though? Because that could be a compliment. I don't know. It's not.
No, not necessarily.
It makes you self-aware though.
Yeah, Batman's kind of cool. I mean,
I think he's pretty cool.
They're not all so nice. Though.
I'd put that in the positive comments section.
Yeah, maybe it's kind of neutral. Early on, I was Max Payne. They said I sounded like Max Payne. Then they said I sounded like Batman. Then they said I sounded like Castile from Supernatural, which I never watched that, so I don't know. They also said I was Dwight from The Office.
That's an insult.
Yeah, but Dwight,
I don't know.
Dwight owns a farm, though. I mean, he probably has more money than anybody else in the office if you really analyze
Big on beats. Bees, Bears, Battlestar Galactica.
What? Battlestar Galactica?
Battlestar Galactica?
He's a fan of Battlestar Galactica.
You know what? The new series was pretty good,
fan.
and they cut it off Netflix when I got kind of bored with it. I don't know. Do you guys watch that show or not? Because that's pretty.
Yeah, to the end. I watched it every year during exam period because I had so much free time.
Well, don't
Battlestar fracking Galactica.
Well, don't tell me what happens.
I didn't watch
at the
Battlestar
end, please.
Galactica. Dried Fruit likes it.
Because I watched it on Netflix, and then I got a little bit bored with it. Because after 5 seasons or so, I just needed a break. And then when I came back to it, Netflix no longer had it. So I was I don't know what happens at the end. I'm guessing there's some.
Well, how about Star Trek? Do you guys like that?
I prefer Battlestar over Star Trek. Star Trek, growing up, we never had cable. So, depending on where you were, Star Trek would come on. The old series would come out at like 5 o'clock every day. So sometimes I would watch that. So I kind of enjoyed the old series. I don't know about you. I don't know about you, Pocket, but it was, there were only so many shows in that old series though. So you'd end up seeing the same ones over and over. So I don't know. So I guess me calling
I think it developed. It developed nicely. I think it's not. You have to get past the corny costumes and the just cheesy presentation. The first ones, the idea was there, but it wasn't as brilliant as the later ones. The later ones, they developed the philosophical problems that would underlie the each episode, and by the time they got to Voyager, they really had it down to a science. I mean, they really made tough philosophy problems approachable to just your intuition. I mean, you could really see these problems start to emerge, and I thought it was just brilliant writing. Of course, it's so cheesy. I mean, it's so tacky. Klingons and stuff. I mean, come on, give me a break. But if you really think about the underlying problems, it's a brilliant show. So I'm a fan. I was at a Star Trek convention once, as a matter of fact. And you'll see some proper weirdos there, man. People walking around like Worf, and they shave their head. Remember in Big Bang Theory how they went to it and they dressed up like, oh man, it is that bad. Okay. And I think they got their car stolen or something on the way there.
My problem with Star Trek, like, I don't know, I guess you're talking about the original series, right? But or all of them. What are you?
I just meant that over time they evolved. The first ones were the corniest, but the later ones got better.
Okay.
The Next Generation is kind of a crowning achievement. It was a brilliant series.
See, the thing about the Next Generation. Now, I think there might have been one other one, but so they got this robot called Data, right? But somehow they've only been able to develop one, and they can't, mass produce these things. Yeah, that bothers me a tiny bit. Does that not seem a little weird to you?
Well, I guess when you're on when you're on the cusp of a new technology, you're going to start to see individual cases emerge before it becomes widely utilized. I would imagine that with every new technology, there are precursors to that technology.
That's a good explanation. Right. It's a prototype.
And he had a brother, though, right? Wasn't there one series? Yeah, me saying
so
I never watched Star Trek. Apparently, I've watched every one several times. So, if I know that,
you couldn't not watch it though. It was always on after school. When I got home, it was just on. You had to watch it because there was nothing else on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I feel
so
like I was in the same.
You just start to like it.
No, I just remember this one episode where they were fighting this. In the original series, they were fighting this like cave ship or something, and they had to shoot it inside. It's like they had to crash into their ship into the mouth of it or something. You remember that one? Maybe that.
Oh, I don't know. If you couldn't ask me to recount how many types or episodes of Star Trek they were inside of a giant space monster. I mean, that's like a standard cliche.
All right, good point.
So you're gonna have to give me more than that. I looked it up one
time, and I think I don't remember, but there were just hundreds and hundreds of these episodes of Star Trek. I mean, I think it was like 300 episodes, maybe it was 600. I'm sure somebody can tell us in the show comments if that's a thing.
Yeah, somebody's writing a mean comment right now.
Speaking of which, we'll post this on my channel as well, because that way people can leave feedback, which leads me to a question about your podcast. How do you expect people to comment on your content?
Oh, they can comment as long as they stay civil.
But where?
They can comment on SoundCloud and they can comment on Twitter to our individual accounts. So that's Jeremy S. Cook and Max_Maker_YT for YouTube.
Well, in this case, for this example of this podcast, I would invite listeners to comment on my second YouTube channel underneath. Sure. And don't try to be clever by saying something deliberately provocative. It's not clever after you read like a million comments like that. At first, it's kind of funny that people are like poking at me friendly, like it's a friendly troll. It's like, hey man, you sound like gay Batman. Wink, wink. And it's like, I get it. I really do get it that it's like it's in jest. I told you I'm good at picking up satire. At least I'd like to think that I am. But yeah, it's after a while it all becomes the same. And there's this internet adage. It's called Poe's Law. Are you guys familiar with that?
I think so. Is that the one where eventually it goes to Hitler or something? Is that where?
No. I know what you're talking about. That all internet discussions eventually degrade to talk about into all arguments eventually degrade to the point where they use a Holocaust reference, at which time you forfeit the argument. But no, that's not what I'm talking about. Poe's Law states that satire on the internet is indistinguishable from extremism unless you're given a cue.
That is very true.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so
at
you
least
can't
in my
tell.
Experience.
Yeah.
I'm an avid commenter on Reddit, especially on the politics subreddit. And I always try to stay neutral, not neutral, but fair towards other opinions. And sometimes just by staying fair, I get downvoted to hell. Just like today somebody said, oh, this person should be hung because he did that. And that person is a bad person, but I said, still, he shouldn't be hung. You know, we've got justice, we've got courts and stuff like that. I got downvoted for that.
Well, if you're neutral, then you're fake news. Because we like to inform our political positions by our intuition. We use our intuition to divine miraculously what ought questions are of right and wrong. Like we think we know. Here's a clue that you know that you're wrong. If you know that you're right, you're probably wrong, because opinions can't be formed by intuition. If you think you've been born into having a good intuitive sense of right and wrong, you're incorrect. Right and wrong are cases that require study. They take argument. They take a meticulous and careful examination of the problem. And that's what logic does. That's what philosophy is for. They're to evaluate things critically so that we can shed all of our stupid biases that cause us to think a certain way. And what way does it make us think? In a way that's conducive with our reproduction, because we're evolutionary creatures. All discussions with me, I'll tell you right now, all discussions with me end in evolution. I will at some point come back to that. It is the central backbone that gives my worldview shape.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Yeah. You know, and as you said in the beginning, you said you observe things. You observe your fan with the blades. You look at that stuff. And I look at stuff too all the time. I look at everything I go past, any object, and you see, oh, look, this guy did exactly the same as this guy because this is naturally the best way to do it. You know, it's not just that they're both creative in the same way. It's just an evolution of steps or machining processes that only allow you to make a certain part that way.
Yes, and there are constraints that are imposed on these design specifications, mathematical constraints, just physical parameters that are unavoidable, and you have to implement those from an engineering perspective. But also, I'm talking more in like not just the biological or engineering sense, but evolution also applies in a game theoretical sense, where many things are inevitable just because you can predict their economic validity based on just laws. Evolutionary thinking is a very useful tool because it applies to so many just fields of inquiry. Like it's just such a beautiful thought. And here in America, we have a lot of people that reject evolution, and there's only one way to really reject it, and that is to not understand it. Because I think it sounds so easy. It's like, oh yeah, survival of the fittest, the strong survive. That makes intuitive sense. So you think you know everything you need to know about evolution, but actually there's a lot more to it than that. Fitness is about how things are fit to their environment. It's like how well they work for what will promote the next generation, not just who's the toughest. And once you start to really internalize that concept, it will change the way you evaluate complex systems, and that's part of game theory, I think. Being able to see it that way.
Pocket, I guess maybe bringing that to bringing that around. You talk about game theory. Now you came up with a pretty awesome, in my opinion, game. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm really surprised it didn't do better, to be honest. I think it's a tough nut to crack. That, well, like, to give background, we're talking about, it's called hexagonal isopath or something like that. I really should have came up with a catchier name before I released it, but it would do better to have a better name. And I think the tough nut to crack is the board game demographic. I think they've seen it all, and they aren't really ready to accept anything different or new. And so far, from what I can tell, it really is different and new. And I'm quite proud of it.
I mean, just to describe this game from someone who didn't, well, I mean, I guess I did build one, but I didn't come up with it. You know, it's a big hexagon and a bunch of little hexagons underneath it, or that sit on top of it. You start on one end with 4 pieces. Other person starts on the other end with their 4 pieces, and one side can only move on top of them. One side can only move on the bottom of these. And, you know, besides just having an interesting gameplay, as Pocket's describing, and to me, it's just the way the hexagons fit together are just absolutely beautiful. I just love the way it. I don't know. Maybe it's the engineering in me, or just I just think it's a cool shape. I mean, even if it didn't actually play a game.
We'll add a link to your videos in the show notes for those that are interested in this game.
Yeah, and because I prefer visual aids, if you're watching this on my YouTube channel right now, there will be a picture of the game board. I love visual aids, so the podcast format is kind of difficult for me. I like to. I'm a visual person. Yeah. I'm an object worshiper. I think that's the whole.
Us, you know?
I think that's the whole.
That's why we're engineers.
Yeah, well, you have to be. You're engineers. You have to be. You love the object. It's a celebration of the object. And I get comments about this sometimes where, oh, I love that. I can't explain it, but I love that feeling or that view, and I get it. I get that you like seeing it. A lot of channels don't do they don't give long reveals, and you don't get to see the object enough. I don't need your explanation to make the object you're featuring. I just need a picture of it. The explanation is for beginners, but I've made so many things over my life that I just need a picture of it. I'll make my own procedure, and maybe it won't be as streamlined or as well thought out as your procedure was, but that's not the case now, is it? I mean, honestly, people release things that are still in their beta stage just because they want to get a video out. Yeah. Most of their procedures aren't very refined.
Yeah, lots of stuff, lots of channels. They start out great, but suddenly they became daily video channels, and now they only build stuff that they can build in a week or in a day. Yeah,
isn't that sad? Isn't that sad? Because
they've got such a great potential to make amazing stuff, you know.
There's so many good ones, though. We never did go over what our favorite channels are.
Yeah, exactly. I answered the question, but I never asked you back because we drifted from it. What do you guys watch?
Okay, so honestly, I'm not even making this up, but I really do like your channel quite a bit. It's like I think I mentioned I don't watch a lot of YouTube channels, but I think I like your second channel a little bit more just because it's kind of quirky and has you in it more. And, you know, you never know what kind of weird stuff you're going to come up with. Whereas the first one, it's a little more, I don't want to say formalized, but just, I don't know. It's a little bit better, but at the same time, it
doesn't deviate enough
as off the cuff, if that makes any sense. And I think that only appeals to certain people, but I like it myself.
I like the second one better too, but the first one, I don't speculate in the first one. That's the difference. Like the first one, I stick to the bare bones. These are the facts. This is what I did. I don't know. It's changed over time. I mean, my earlier ones were totally different, and I need to start taking it more seriously too. I apologize for that.
Well, that's hey, whatever.
Like the whole thing, I should take it more seriously. But there's this part of me deep down inside that's like, come on, man, you're just putting stupid videos on the internet. You can't treat that like a real job. You can't take it seriously.
Well, but that's part of your style. That's why people subscribe to you. That's what they like about you. They could subscribe to other people, but they chose you, you know? Obviously, they have others too.
Yeah, but I don't patronize people, though. I'm not going to... Here's I always think of that just horrible cliche that's, oh my God, you guys, update.
Hi, everybody, I bought this beautiful watch. Here's the link on Amazon to buy it.
Yeah, and I understand their struggle that they, you know, the struggle with advertising and the struggle with having sponsorship and putting a blurb for a product in the middle of your video presentation. But I'm so hesitant to do that. I never even monetized my channel until I had like well into several million views. And nobody remembers that now that I lost thousands of dollars of revenue just because I was stubborn. And I still don't have any sponsors. And they even send me stuff. They send me all sorts of cool puzzles and stuff. Lots of puzzle companies send me puzzles. And I should do the sponsorship. And there have been puzzle channels, I won't mention their names, that have by far passed me up, even though I was doing puzzles a long time ago. Just because they get the puzzles that they send to them, they evaluate them, they show a reveal, and then they do a sponsored gimmick, and they dance and do the whole jingle, and then they're rewarded on the algorithm for that.
It's not just the algorithm. People like that, you know. Check out what you can watch on TV. It's mostly low quality, I would say.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
But that's what's successful, you know. That's evolution. People like the simple stuff.
Yes.
The great TV shows, they don't get the best ratings, and not the best actors, not the best money.
Yeah. Well, now, Pocket, you touched on something. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I touched on lots of things. That's my style. We're going to have to leave lots of loose ends. That's just, it's like my garage.
Yeah. Well, two things we have to talk about: money and
money.
And what is your favorite channel? Oh, by the way, to finish off the money, basically, me and Jeremy, we make almost like nothing.
Oh, from your YouTube channels?
Yeah.
Well, you have to keep doing it. You'll make money.
I know, of course. But you know, having your kind of problem, I would be happy to take it.
Fair enough. Just keep making content. You'll do well. First of all, you're destined for success. I already know that.
Well, we stay
but
at
you
it.
Also, you have a clear presentation. If you would have been in this game earlier, you would have excelled. A lot of it. No, really, you got a late start. Like you missed the bubble. I was in it early, but I didn't take it seriously. If I would have, then I would have a substantial channel at this point.
Yeah, but I mean, you have
right now
140,000 subscribers, right? So that's, I mean, to me, that's a pretty good channel. Is that not?
You have a substantial channel.
It's closer, isn't it? No? I thought it was like 190 or something, or 180.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I guess
I have no idea. I don't.
That buffers my point even more.
I don't know.
You have a pretty substantial channel. Is that, you don't consider that successful?
It should be a lot bigger, but as you know, as I told you, I did those satirical ones, and I lost a lot. I lost so many from that, and then I did it. I did it again. Okay, so what was the? I did it again on Napoleon's birthday the following year. I did it again, so I did it 2 years in a row, and it was just a 1-2 punch of devastation to my fan base. But the people that stuck through it, they're awesome. Some of them are great. Like they give me a little bit of latitude. And, you know.
Well, Max probably doesn't understand that, but you know, in America, the Napoleon's birthday is a very big holiday here. Isn't that right, Pocket?
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. We dress up in hats and we shoot each other with Roman candles.
Yeah, I mean, you know, sometimes it's confused for the 4th of July, but you know,
what is Independence Day on?
No,
I'm entirely Napoleon's birthday?
No, not even close. Not even close. No, the United States would never celebrate the French Revolution. Most people here don't even know. Oh, that's insulting, but it's true. Most people don't even know that there was a French Revolution.
Oh, wait. Did I just confuse 4th of July and Independence Day?
No, those. No.
Okay, I guess I'm saying we don't celebrate
that's
Napoleon's birthday.
Okay. No.
Yeah. You know what? Just skip this and Pocket. Tell us what you actually watch on YouTube.
Well, the one channel that I've been watching recently, Actually, to be perfectly honest, what do I spend most of my time listening to? I love those sorts of. I like lectures. I watch or listen to lots of lectures, like lectures on really, really dry stuff, psychology and psychology, philosophy, neuroscience. Like listening to, like, I always listen to Sam Harris, and I like Robert Sapolsky. I don't know. I like that heavy, high test intellectual / philosophical stuff. I don't know. I can't apologize for my nature. If you think that I'm arrogant for saying stuff like saying that, I apologize. But I like the smart stuff. But not smart stuff, no offense to whatever your name is. The new channel, he learns things. He learns things.
Yeah, it's the Jeremy S. Cook channel.
No.
Yeah, how to learn everything?
No.
Fast learn.
I don't know. I can't remember. No, I think his name is Mike Boyd.
Yeah.
But he takes on a new thing and he learns it. And I'll tell you what, he's destined for great.
I know. I watched him too.
He's destined for great.
We've mentioned a few times.
I've just started watching him. I mean, I think his channel's probably not much larger than mine at this point, but he's destined to surpass me by by 2 orders of magnitude.
He's got 500,000
subscribers. Wow. So okay, yeah, he already it's like a rocket ship. Once you get the thrust, you're gone.
He got a great niche,
Yes,
because he's got, it's not just a niche, it's motivational. You can learn anything, which is kind of what I like to promote. With my videos, or all of the makers want to promote. You can do this too, and he's got cool stuff as well. Things that are amazing. He does a muscle up, which is like a pull up, but then you actually push on your arms. You don't just pull at the end, which is
exactly
amazing. And he did it.
And that's how I came across his channel, because I was trying to do the muscle up on the ring, on the rings. And so you get bombarded by these suggestions on how to muscle up, and he actually did. He did the muscle up in, I think it was 90 days.
That's impressive. I really honestly don't think I'd ever be able to do that.
Yes, you can. Yes,
but he was just an average guy. You can learn it. He learned how to break a glass with your voice. Took you like 4 hours in total.
Really?
If you're,
it's a really annoying video to watch because he yelled at the glass all the time.
You do have to kind of skip through parts of his videos just because they get tedious. But it's amazing content. He is not my favorite channel. He's just the channel that recently I've really been captivated by. My favorite channel overall, there are 2 answers to that. Unquestionably, favorite channel is Vsauce. I think I identify most closely with what he does. I think I'm most similar to him. I think the things that we're interested in are the same. But my favorite are...
That's really interesting because, he's got 12 million subscribers.
Who? Vsauce?
Vsauce,
okay.
Yeah.
So
it's actually something that can relate to everybody. You would think that an intellectual channel would be that successful.
Well, if you watch his early videos, they weren't intellectual. They were just downright trash. I mean, there were like video games and memes, and it doesn't matter. He's interesting and he's a natural presenter, but he has an inquisitiveness to him that's brilliant and childlike at the same time, and he has a profound grasp of mathematical and philosophical concepts that should be foreign to somebody his age. He's brilliant. I just deeply admire the man. But in our what do you call it, genre though, in the woodworking engineering stuff, I have quite a few favorites, but I do have a clear favorite. There are 3, in my opinion, that really informed and changed what it is, like what people are doing now on making stuff in YouTube. And I think those were... Now, before I even say this, let me first start off with a disclaimer that my experience is limited. And, the number of videos that I've seen are different. And I was staring at a different screen than you guys were. So everybody's going to have a different opinion or take on this. But
let me guess one.
Okay, go ahead.
Is Matthias Wandel.
Well, that's the easy one. I don't think...
Okay.
I think just
I watch all of his videos too. I just didn't mention him as my favorite because I think he's so big. He doesn't need any. He doesn't need a plug. You know.
To be okay. If I'm going to be asked to talk about him, then I'm going to have to explore both sides of it. For one, the positive aspect. I could just shower him in praise. What he's done for the medium surpasses what anybody else has done. He's made a repository of useful information that is bare bones stripped of BS and just gets straight to the point for people that want to make or reproduce his experiments. He puts them, they're clear, they're concise, they're logical. It's easy to follow, easy to understand, and innovative. And his range of expertise is just unparalleled. He's brilliant.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. And
yeah, he is.
I can't keep up with him because he's many years older than I am. So in a lot of ways, I have to be in his shadow. That leads me to the negative aspect of him. I don't think he likes me.
Me neither.
What do you mean?
I once sent him an email. It was quite early on at my, woodworking career, let's call it that way. And I said, like, yeah, I need to fix metal brackets to really thin plywood. What's the best way to fit it to the plywood so it doesn't rip out? And his reply was just screws.
No. I don't think that's fair to characterize him as not liking you over that. His brevity is symptomatic of a person that's just inundated with just these basic questions, like an endless series of basic questions where people just don't even try to help themselves. And if anyone gets it, I couldn't imagine anyone getting it worse than him.
So why do you think he doesn't like you?
It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. I'm forced to feel in a way like I have to be careful that I don't copy what he does too much, because my goodness, am I interested in exactly the same things he is. I mean, everything, every single. I have so many videos that I haven't even released because they'll just be like, "Hey, Matthias already did that." Yeah, like no kidding. Like he's covered so much ground that it's like it'd be like me going out to. It'd be like me traveling west right now, pretending like I'm exploring the Wild West. This territory has been covered by this point, and so originality is gone. But that doesn't mean that the viewers see it that way. They see it as you're copying someone. So. I try to keep my distance in that respect. But even if he doesn't like me, I don't care. He's irrelevant to me in that sense. But goodness, do I have respect for him.
Wasn't there an episode of South Park where they were talking about, oh, The Simpsons already did this, The Simpsons did this. But, that show's been on for 20 years. So obviously there's going to be some overlap between television shows. And I'm sure it's the same with YouTube
okay, so he just did one on a drawing machine. It was a drawing machine that kind of resembles a harmonograph, and his version was constrained by it's not quite as elaborate as a full harmonograph, but this is something that I have a book that's from the early 1900s that outlines how to build a harmonograph. So it's very old, but he just released a video on it, and this is following my 4+ years of procrastination, promising people that I'm going to release my harmonograph. I have a couple different versions of it, and
well, just release it and say this is my take on it.
Well, yeah, but then that's easy to say, but you also have to space it out so that it's not. I don't know. This is a boring subject. If you don't mind, I'd like to move on. I would like to say though that he's not the only one that I respect. I mean, the other two that I think modeled what the maker demographic is like. Are Steve Ramsey and John Heiss, for their different reasons. John Heiss is from the construction perspective. I spent years in construction. I started when I was 9.
Wow.
I'm not joking. 9 for $1 an hour, carrying 2x4s and pulling nails. I used this.
Was it with your parents?
Yeah, for my dad, who would be arrested if he were to do that today. No. at age 11, I was using a Sawzall to cut out floor plates. So by the time I was a precocious learner. So by the time I was 20, I had pretty much understood framing inside and out.
Huh, very good.
Now, what?
I know that's impressive. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's also frustrating though, because there are a lot of people that have been doing it for 40 years and they're idiots. They still don't know how to do it right. So as a 20-year-old and like you're already using the Pythagorean theorem to do rafter lengths and stair stringers, and they're looking at you like, why don't you just use a square? You ain't going to use this in real life. Yeah, well, maybe you aren't going to, but I can. I liked that. I liked the puzzle aspect of it, compound rafters and such. So I went out on my own and became self-employed early on. But that doesn't matter. My point was that I was in the construction world for a long time, and that makes me identify with Heiss because he's clearly the construction guy that's way too smart to be a construction guy. And I love that about him. And he has a long catalog of projects that span from stone to metalwork to wood to aluminum, whatever. What's the medium? It doesn't matter. Whatever he needs to make. And I love that. I'm the same way. But his content is so exhaustively long that I can't even claim to have seen a fraction of it. But I think he did a lot for it.
I think he's a great guy, and he builds good things. You know, he's obviously he knows what he's doing, but I think his video lack a little bit of. They're not really that fresh, you know. I feel that a little bit. I think he's stuck in a hole that he can't get out of. He needs some help, almost some inspiration to change his channel a little bit. Because I noticed he doesn't grow as much as all the other guys do. They all started off at the same subscriber level at one point, and he's still there, basically. I think what he should do is build elaborate videos, you know? Today I'm going to make this whole cabinet from scratch, everything, start to finish.
I see your point, but I'm evaluating based on content and based on that he was one of the early producers of content that helped define the format.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the format didn't exist at first. Now, this brings me, so yeah, he could probably do things flashier, but I think that he's a guy of integrity that he doesn't. Because there are already way too many emulations of the king of random and the typical sort of success algorithm out there where you patronize the viewers, you get the Patreon page and the, oh my God, thank you guys so much. Here's an update. I love you guys. It's silliness. And he doesn't do that because he has, like I said, the construction background where that's just silliness. It's untenable to proceed that way. And I respect him for that. But now this leads me into the next person who I think really, really sculpted what we see today. And that's Steve Ramsey.
Steve Ramsey. I love him. Although his content is very standard for my standard. He does great video production, of course, but you know, the stuff that he teaches, I already know most of the things.
Yes, but standard is the key word. He set the standard. So let me go back about 10 years. And I remember I had this job where I had this little corner where I could do woodworking. And a lot of these guys at work used to love it that I was skilled in it. So they would a lot of times watch me make things. I had an audience quite often. And I remember making stools out of 2x4. So I was just making a bunch of stools. And I remember somebody said something to the effect of, I can't believe that you can make a stool in just a couple minutes like that. To this day, I've streamlined and optimized that stool design. I've made dozens of them. And if you
made a video of it?
I don't think so. But if you look around in my videos, you'll see shop stools floating around. Not that goofy one that's in my garage, but the 4-legged ones that are made out of 2x4s. Anyhow, the person said, I can't believe you can make a stool like that so quickly. And so they were all over the workplace, and they're rugged and cheap and easy to make. And I said, I would love to make a show called the Table Saw and 2x4 Workshop, where I make just simple, rudimentary designs using only a table saw and 2x4s, just to show you the wide array of designs that are available to you. If you're imaginative, you can make all sorts of things out of just 2x4s with some drywall screws and a table saw. It's amazing what you can make with just that limited palette. And when I finally discovered YouTube a couple years later, Steve Ramsey had beat me to it. His Mere Mortals thing was table saw and 2x4 workshop. And when I saw it, I'm like, oh my goodness, I always had that idea. But Steve Ramsey is not the kind of klutzy person that he portrays. I hope you won't mind me saying that, but he acts that way, like he's the goofball. And that makes him more approachable and palatable for mass viewing. But in reality, he's brilliant. He has...
Interesting.
You can clearly tell he's brilliant.
Yeah, and it seeps through, and you can tell that he has some sort of media training as well. Like he has some kind of film background, because his understanding of media theory leaks out. And it's not just like, oh, he read a Wikipedia article about narrative structure or something like that. It's that it just leaks out that he's formally trained. And maybe they train everyone that in California, but from where I'm from, you just don't know how filmmaking works that well. But
but he's also a very entertaining person.
Oh, and his sense of humor
about the filming.
His sense of humor is just there have been moments that have made me genuinely laugh out loud. The one that still gets me every once in a while, I will laugh to myself over this when I think about it. He made this Halloween video. It was a new option called Enable Live Comments, and he clicked it, and then this guy goes, "First!" Every time I see his face, and he says "first," I see his face in my head, it makes me laugh because of how ridiculous it is. But his sense of humor defined the genre. All of us copy his format to some extent. He was the first one there. So everything is in some way a regurgitation of his early work.
So Pocket, I got one more question for you. Then maybe we can wrap it up a little bit if that works for you guys. So what's the weirdest thing that somebody sent you? Because on your contact page, all I see is a PO box somewhere in Pennsylvania. Is that correct? And so people probably send you. Well, what's the craziest thing somebody sent you?
The craziest thing someone sent? Ooh, I don't know. The craziest object? I don't know. None of them are all that bizarre. I mean, they're all a little bit bizarre, but none of the things that they sent have been like obscene bizarre. I mean, some of them are like, I kind of raise an eyebrow. Like, what do I do with that? But some of the letters are more bizarre.
All right. Fair enough.
I'm sorry I don't have a clear answer for that. If I had something that was just proper weird, I would bring it to your attention. But off the top of my head, I can't remember anything.
You get a lot of mail from fans or enemies or, rival YouTubers?
I've never had a handwritten hate message that I can remember.
Oh, that would be cool, though. That would be,
Okay, so there have been...
It would be more respectable.
There have been strange things that have fallen out of envelopes before. While I'm in my truck at the post office, you can't help it because they're fun. Some of the packages are downright fun to open up. So you're in your truck and you open it up and strange things spill onto your lap and you have to laugh.
That could be good or bad.
All told, it's been good. I haven't had anthrax or anything yet, so...
Not yet.
No. All told, like, I know I complain a lot about negative comments, but please don't let me misrepresent. There have been some wonderful human beings from this. Like, some of the people that I've met and corresponded with, and some of the people, especially the young kids, which probably has formed that image in my head that I told you about. The image of that kid that's a little bit younger than me, who's like, he just became an engineering major. And he's like, you've inspired me to start making things. I'm in mechanical engineering and I love making the cool stuff you do. And geometry is magical to me as well. Like, when I think of him, it's awesome. Like, I'll do anything to help you. If you're out there, kid, I will do anything that I can to help you. Come talk to me. If you're in silence and I don't know about you, then I can't help you. But we want to help you because you're our people.
And I think that's the honesty that you need with your channel, that you have a goal of not just making money like some people do on YouTube, not necessarily in our genre, but in general. and you actually want to make the place, a little bit better, help other people out, teach people how to do things.
Absolutely. But, you know, if you're like, you're a math major, and my understanding of integration, if I make some explanation about calculus or something and you find it rudimentary, I'm sorry, but I can't do everything. Like I'm not thinking about you. I'm not thinking about you. I'm more of the Martin Gardner type or the Vsauce type. I'm not thinking about calc major or math majors. I'm thinking about the kid that's just starting in engineering and he's interested in the concept stuff like we are.
I'm just going to say, you know, kind of like you, I'm sure. It's just I find so much different stuff so interesting. I think that's maybe the beauty of YouTube and being able to put that out there. You know, what you make and what Max makes and what I make are all a little bit different, but they're all, I don't know, they're all kind of unique and weird and wonderful in my opinion. I think it's...
They spark creativity.
It might be a bad idea to not be specific, though, because I have a wide range of projects. I think that makes me less approachable. Like if I only bake cookies and that's it, then I'll get the cookie baking demographic. So, you know,
I agree with that. I mean, that's one thing I struggle with. I feel like, because I make a lot of different things, so do you. But, you know, somebody like, like Peter Brown, who you collaborated on with that Kane, you know, he has a very specific thing that he does. He does it very well, and it's, you know, somewhat consistent. And he gets a very good audience for that. And I don't know, I guess there's something to be said for that too. So I guess it's just, I don't know, I guess you could just gotta do your own thing, you know, whatever that is.
Before we go, I want to complain to Max about his recent video.
Yeah, I agree. Why? It was pretty terrible.
I can't believe you threw it out. It was beautiful.
Kidding. Well, it was rage. It was just rage. That's why it's not on camera when I actually did it. I was holding the router, trying to route something out. The router was kicking back. It was, you know, me fighting the router and a stupid piece of wood. So I smashed it. Well,
you know, instead of taking all those steps with the epoxy, you could have just polyurethaned it and been done in an hour. Because that's what I did with mine, and it looks exactly the same.
Yeah, thank you for telling me now. It's too late.
But when I saw you break it, I'm like, oh my goodness, it was so beautiful. Plus, I also thought why I disagreed with what you did was because you passed the point of no return with that video. There's a point, you know how Adam Savage is fond of saying that failure is always an option?
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. But there's a point where you've resolved that failure is no longer an option and you're going to invest whatever resources you have at that point. That's tenacity, and you need that. And like when you pass that point, when that epoxy bubbled, it's like I would have scraped it off with a razor blade and did it over again.
I think what Pocket's saying, Max, is that if you fail at something, just don't publish it. Just you know, just keep it off the internet. No,
hide it.
Boy, that's a whole other topic of discussion is failure, because I don't post my failures on my main channel, but I think people love to see that, and it's something that I could do to improve my.
Oh yeah,
I will post from viewers.
No. In all honesty, Max, I very much enjoyed that video.
So did I.
I'm relieved that it's done. Really, I'm relieved. But I started with new things, which brings us to the next section, which is progress, and where we talk about what we actually did since the last podcast. So, Pocket, what have you been working on?
Oh, I work on many things at the same time. I work on, at any given time, I work on a dozen prototypes. I consider them leads. There are leads to whether or not they'll be good videos. If they pass and become a prototype, then they go into the prototype pile where I may at some point make a video. So I work on many things, but the two projects that I'm working on now, they involve epoxy and spheres.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. It's very mysterious, just like your whole persona. So we definitely love to hear that.
It's so mysterious, right? No, it's not that it's irrelevant. That's all. My character is irrelevant. I just don't want it to become about look at me, look at me, look at me. It's just not important.
I enjoyed your Christmas lights hanging thing too with the thing, because I need to put some too to I don't know how you put it, fit in with cultural norms or whatever you said.
Did you like the music? That was borderline satire. Because it's just so.
I just liked how you said, I can't remember exactly how you put it, but it's like, in order to fit in with cultural norms in my suburban neighborhood.
It's something
I
like
have to put up
normative
Christmas lights.
values or something.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? I kind of feel you there, because anyway, I probably need to put up some lights. So thanks for that.
Oh God, my parents are actually on holiday, and they asked me to decorate their house. What's the point? You're not even here. Why should I decorate this? Christmas is almost over. It's already mid of December.
You could just tell them that you did.
Well, they're coming back close to Christmas.
You just tell them that you did.
I mean, at least if you spend December at home, then okay. But if you just spend like 10 days here, what's the point?
Well, they're in Florida, correct? Is that right?
Oh no, they moved on to Panama now.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to say, if they're in Florida, I could talk to some of my contacts, see if I could get them detained for a couple of days.
Just get them detained.
Have you been working on anything, Jeremy?
Yeah, I actually, I just finished a battery pack video using the coin cells and some shrink wrap, which I thought that was pretty cool. It's done pretty well as a video so far. But probably the most interesting thing I've been working on is I made a bed for my son, and I actually got that installed yesterday, which was awesome. He really loved it. Has some engraved figures that I put on my CNC router, made it like some pictures of robots and stuff in his name. And I think it's gonna be really cool. So that's probably the coolest thing. I also put out a video on a battery pack I made from CR2032 batteries. You know, like I was telling Pocket, I can't stay focused on one genre at a time apparently. So that's kind of my
CR2. Which batteries? Oh, the tiny ones, the watch batteries.
Yeah, the little coin cell batteries. I figured out a way to stick them together with shrink wrap, and that's going to be really good for projects in the future, I guess.
Small stuff, high voltage.
Yeah, exactly. So.
And the secret project, which my goodness looks good.
Yeah.
What's that?
That looks really good.
The secret project for people that watch more than a minute.
Oh yeah, no, I'm really excited about that one. Just stuffing all the electronics into the little controller, so that'll be fun. Hopefully somebody else won't make it before I get done with it. So.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
Yeah, but I guess
it's rough out there.
The
idea market is rough.
I'll probably release it either way. I guess I don't have the same fear of reprisal like more popular YouTubers or whatever. But yeah, thanks. Glad you thought that was interesting.
But that would never happen.
You don't think so?
No, you would pay too much in PR capital if you went on the offensive against it's better to take the approach of, oh, I don't mind that they copied my video. I kind of shouldn't even go on record saying this, but I've had plenty of mine copied. Some of it is just downright. Well, I'm not talking about the meme one where other people repost it. I'm not talking about that. There have been times where other personalities have taken something that I blatantly made and just posted it as their own. I don't like that because I always do attribution. If I step on someone else's toes, I will quickly give up proper attribution.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, that's the right way to do it. We're all in the same.
I don't even get why people copy others, There's so many cool projects that you could do, so much good content. Most of the people I know in this genre have more things on their list that they can actually produce.
No, that's
so why would you need to copy somebody else?
Yeah,
so.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, I've never copied anybody else, like made a hexagonal board game and put out a video on it or anything. But
no.
But that was your idea,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Wait, that was your original idea. I remember.
Oh, you're so mischaracterizing what I said. No, you gave. But
no. I'm not. I didn't mean to.
No, we get what you said.
You gave attribution, so it was like so perfectly done that it was flattering. I mean, that was like I appreciate.
Wow,
I appreciated that. But
no, I thought that was awesome though. I was like, wow, the person who actually designed this originally is commenting on my channel about this. I think it's pretty cool, and he thinks it's cool too. So I was super happy about that. So
some people made electronic versions. By the way, if you don't want to make one, check the comments or the description in that video. And people made electronic versions, and one of them I really enjoyed. It was pretty good. There were a couple different themes that they came up with.
Was it the Angels and Demons or something?
Yeah. I really hope that it eventually catches on. Not for my own satisfaction, but because I found the game to be genuinely good. It's hard to find a good 2-player game. I like Hex and Othello and games like that, but it's not nearly as complicated as chess, but there are more permutations probably. Isopath, I mean. So,
Right. Interesting.
Jeremy, we should play this game online with your webcam.
Yeah, we should do that sometime. So Max, what about you? What have you been working on this week or this month, for that matter?
Oh, two things. I've been working a lot on my desk lamp, which is a really high-powered LED desk lamp. I did a lot of turning. It's turned out to be quite a lathe video, so lots of turning involved. But you could 3D print all of this if you wanted to. It would just be beefier. And that's getting close to finish, I hope. And the other thing is a big project. I'm building an electric hydrofoil. So it's like a surfboard, but with a wing underneath the water, and that actually gives you lift. And that's quite an involved build, because there's making the surfboard, making the electronics, figuring out the motor, the batteries, because it's really high-powered stuff. It will be 7 kilowatts. So it's like 3 kettles or 4 kettles.
Well, I mean, how much current is coming out of this? Didn't you say it was something like 200 amps or something?
200 amps.
That's,
even getting components for 200 amps is really difficult.
Yeah, that's
like switches
incredible.
And plugs.
I'm so out of my depth with you guys in electronic knowledge. I am in complete envy and awe when I hear you discuss it. The things that you guys do with electronics is amazing. And by the way,
that's why I expressed it in kettles, because a kettle has like 1500 watts, and it's really powerful. It makes water boil.
But I've always wanted to make Lichtenberg fractals. They're Lichtenberg figures. Have you ever seen that? It's where you run.
I know Prince Rupert drops.
No. That's with glass.
It's the electric stuff in wood.
Yes, the Prince Rupert drops are when you drop glass in water and it becomes fragile. The Lichtenberg figures are when you run electric current through a medium that gives a lot of resistance, and then it causes that beautiful sort of lightning shape. It looks amazing in acrylic, and it also works on wood. I always wanted to try it, and I even have an old broken neon sign, but there's just something mysterious and threatening about electricity that my ignorance prevents me from dabbling with it too much. And to hear you guys are clearly adept, and that brings me to my point. We never even discussed my resistance to technology. That was supposed to be my central theme here. Never even got into it. Oh well.
Next time, I guess.
Yeah. Why don't we have you on in a few months or whatever? I think it'd be awesome actually.
Well,
we'll also be good to talk progress with our guests.
Yeah, and also
the other ones.
We could also become better, because I keep interrupting you, and I hate to be overbearing. I'm conversationally overbearing, and I apologize for that. But also, we would get better at not tripping over each other and interrupting.
Yeah. But that just happens because we can't see each other, and there's a delay in the line. Obviously, I'm in Germany, you're in Florida, and who knows
I'm
where
in
else.
Pennsylvania. But I'm surprised how little lag there is.
Yeah, we pay for the service.
Oh.
It costs money to run this podcast.
Yeah, I mean,
we make zero, by the way.
I mean, Germany has the Angela Merkel supervises the internet connections there personally, right?
She is a physicist. She's great.
Oh, that's true.
Just, politics aside, she's a good person. She tries to do the best for the people.
Oh yeah, but politics is something we should refrain from.
Anything.
We should refrain from that area of discussion, because it just brings more hate than I already have enough hate in my life. But how long have you been speaking English? I dare say it's not your native language.
Well, I had a girlfriend from Australia when I was in year 10, 9, so that's where I learned a lot of English, and of course in school. And after that, I went abroad. I went to Peru, Costa Rica, and England for 7 years. So,
well, you're an interesting personality.
Too,
I look forward to getting to know you better at some point. I mean, this is
same here. Maybe I could get your email address one day.
To the listeners, this is the first time Max and I have ever spoken. So it's kind of bizarre to go on.
That's right.
As if we know each other when we really don't.
Well, I'm sure I left some comments on your channel at some point.
Yeah, you're the one that wrote those really nasty ones that hurt his feelings, right?
Did I insult? Did I insult you?
I do.
My reputation precedes me. I will engage in the lowly YouTube argument. I will do it.
No, you probably ignored me.
You better bring. If you want to argue, I will. But I'm a good writer, and I will use. It better be factual because I will deconstruct your argument, and I love it. You ever see those? You ever see those mountain goats? How they butt heads? And you would think that it just smashes their brain off the side of their skull, and that's how I look at argument at times. I feel like polemics is, at least it could have been my calling. I just love
kind of like real football, I guess, for Max's benefit.
Real football. Real football. Oh, that's another area of conversation. We can really churn up some hatred with my position on the metric system.
Oh yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about that. We definitely need to do this again because I'd love to.
Earlier, while Pocket was getting ready to record this, Jeremy actually told me that the metric system is better, but he wouldn't admit it, of course.
Yeah, I hope that's
right?
not. I'm not admitting that on
You
camera.
you could say better, but better with respect to what? Because all measurement systems are arbitrary, and if you think otherwise, you're incorrect.
Yeah, that's right, Max. That's right.
They are.
Let's not get too deep into this.
I knew I wanted to get. I knew I had a reason I wanted to get Pocket on here, and it's to.
He's outnumbered.
We have a little metric system beatdown.
We have him in the corner.
You know, an inch can be useful for something that's roughly the size of an inch. Like, you know, if I say, let's say I'm making a sock for my That's a really bad idea. I'll cut this out. Let's say I make something that's just 1 inch thick. I could say, give me an inch thick of material. No. But if you want a slice of bread, you would want an inch big slice of bread.
You don't get to cut out poorly formulated arguments out of the podcast to make your position seem stronger. That's not fair. So your argument is essentially thus. It's good for measuring things like a ruler. A ruler is a foot long, so it would be 12 inches. So it's easy to express that value in inches. No.
No, ruler is 30 centimeters. Everybody knows that.
Nobody knows
At least
that.
in Germany, it is.
I don't want to misrepresent. I'm teasing you. I totally admit, and I have a science background. I totally admit that the metric system is a thing of beauty because it represents our approach to standardization. But we're a long way off. And we have to remember historical context, and we have to keep in mind that all numerical systems are arbitrary. All measurement or expressive systems are arbitrary. Oh my goodness, our American system for gallons and such and ounces, I don't even understand it. It's stupid.
Yeah. But you know what I liked in America? We went to Rib City in Florida in Cape Coral, and we had ribs, French fries, and you have a third side, which is just toast with garlic butter on top. Unnecessary, but it was very nice.
Very nice. Well, it reminded me.
Listen, I think we should go ahead and close out the podcast with this statement that there's two types of countries: those that use the metric system and those that have gone to the moon. And
that's not. That's
you
so
think
unfair.
I just came up with that out of the blue?
Oh, that was we're quoting you on that. That's your quote. It's your original.
I just came up with that. I came up with that just now. He's
from Florida, so he knows
2 seconds.
He knows
I'm from
space
Florida.
stuff.
I mean,
so he knows space
my
stuff.
family was involved in the rocket ships or something. Or something like that.
If that was Benjamin Franklin, by the way.
What was it?
That quote was Benjamin
exactly.
Franklin.
Because he went to the moon. He shot himself there with the
discerning
cannon,
viewer, the discerning listener will probably find the flaw in that logic. But
the discerning listener will probably understand it's not a video, not a viewer.
Yeah,
never mind.
The discerning listener probably would turn this off when they figured out it was me. But
Pocket, thank you very much for joining us today. It was great talking to you. It was quite a long episode. And it was really good meeting you.
Oh, you as well. I wish you guys nothing but luck on your approach and improvement. You guys do awesome stuff, and I totally support the work that you're doing.
Same for you. And don't take it too hard on the comments.
No, I don't. By all means, don't think that. I have perspective. You have to laugh. You have to laugh at it. You have to keep it at arm's length.
Yeah, thanks so much, man. We really appreciate it, and it was a lot of fun.
Okay, great talking to you guys.
Bye-bye.
See ya.